Welcome back to the daily business update here at BigScope. And today we're going to talk about something very important. Actually, we're here to share out a bad news to you guys. Your favorite honeymoon destination, especially Indians and a lot of Europeans.
Well, rich Indians.
Rich Indians and rich Indians and okay Europeans who your favorite destination for honeymoon, Maldives, might be out of context for the next 1 or 2 years.
Yeah. So Indians usually have an on-arrival visa, 90 days, do what you want kind of visa.
So, sorry, we have nothing to do with your honeymoon, but a particular gentleman who's heading Maldives right now has to do with it. But on more serious terms, can we talk about what the hell is actually happening in Maldives?
So, I think this all goes back a few years. A guy called Yamin took over the presidency in Maldives. Maldives finally had a democratic government a decade ago. This guy comes
and when he says took over, it's a coup.
It's a coup, yeah. It was a full-blown coup. The ex-leaders are in exile or in prison.
Yeah.
So for the last few years, he's been in charge since 2011, 2013.
Absolutely.
And he's not a big fan of India, I think, to put that lightly.
And he's played his, this is the way I look at it. So in the current situation, the facts as he was telling you, there's been a coup in Maldives. The current gentleman, Yamin his name. Although he's visited India a year back, he did visit Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he did come to the South Block in Delhi, but Maldives is a small island nation, and the importance Maldives has right now in the concept of regional powers between India and China, and the way Maldives is, I don't know whether Maldives is playing or China is playing, it's just a great battle which is blowing out over there.
So Maldives is kind of, it's a metaphor for the way India treats all of its neighbors, right? So we've got already Pakistan obviously hates us for other reasons, historical reasons. Can't do much about that. But countries like Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh,
Sri Lanka, Maldives,
especially Bangladesh, we helped them get independence.
Absolutely.
And they still deal with anyone and everyone.
Absolutely. Look at Nepal for that matter.
Nepal, Bhutan, who recently came out and said we can't trust India to make the right decisions anymore.
Exactly. Even before we go on further on the entire in this amazing power battle which is happening in Maldives, and which has a lot of implications to India's role in this entire regional area of who has the most power, whether it's India or whether it's China. Let's look at Sri Lanka, for example, for a minute. India was supposed to develop a couple of ports in Sri Lanka, in the northern part of Sri Lanka. This news has been there for the last 10 years, 10-15 years. As of today, the entire port has been developed by whom? Not by India. The contract came to the companies in India.
Yeah.
The contracts was cancelled out. India said, we don't want to develop any port because this is not economically viable. Yes, it's true. The contracts of that
on a balance sheet, it's not profitable.
And it made sense. And the contracts went out to a state-owned Chinese company.
Yeah.
Point being,
the exact same thing happened in Maldives in 2011, 2012.
Yeah.
When an Indian contractor was supposed to build a port in Maldives.
Yeah.
Chinese came in, took that contract, and now they become the first foreign entity to hold land in Maldives.
Absolutely. And let me give you 3 examples in terms of the way smartly China is becoming more powerful day after day in the entire context. And this is not fear-mongering, these are actual facts.
Facts, yeah.
Let me tell you. And all Maldives examples. Example number 1. China built a bridge from the current capital, which is Male, to a nearby island. That contract was given to an Indian company. Gone. It comes to a Chinese company. Second, the airport, the current the main airport of Maldives, that was supposed to be new parts of the airport was supposed to build. It was given, the contract was actually given to an Indian company. 2012 or 13, contract gets cancelled, comes to a Chinese company. Then an island in Maldives, one of the islands in Maldives, has been given on loan or a lease rather for 50 years for some 4 or 3 billion rupees to a Chinese enterprise.
Yeah. So. And this is just the big picture stuff. There's smaller stuff on the ground. While all this happening, China is literally taking over parts of Maldives. First time a foreign country has done that. Indians are struggling to get work permit visas for 2,000 Indian citizens that already have job offers.
And these are skilled employees, by the way.
Not laborers. Skilled employees in Maldives.
Doctors, your teachers, your naval officers. The visa applications are struck.
A big part of this is in 2013 we gifted them a couple of helicopters.
Oh yes.
Gifted in the sense of we loaned them a couple of helicopters. That's how international politics works. And with those helicopters came a few officers who knew how to use the helicopter. So their visas ran out at the end of June. And this technically ended out at the end of May, but Sushma Swaraj went there, negotiated for another month. It ran out at the end of June. And now Maldives is refusing to give them an extra visa.
And not only
They said
that,
take back the helicopters if you want.
bang on, and not only that, I mean, these are crazy facts which is coming out of Maldives in terms of their relation with India. Because historically, we have had a peaceful relationship with Maldives as well as with Sri Lanka. To this point of view, in terms of Indians' visas getting hold, they're not getting permissions to go over there and work. Here's the thing: there were ads out to his earlier point of India gifting them helicopters in 2013, 2012. Now there are two versions to it. One version which has been written about a lot in news portals and papers in Maldives, and by international neutral analysts to cover relations between India and Maldives. The two facts. One, they say it's because the current government in Maldives, they were not too happy or they were not too cool about the fact that it was Indian naval force who was taking care of the helicopters over there. Like, my men will take, my countrymen will take care of that.
So Yamin has a fear of Indians staging a coup, or at least sending in a lot of commandos. Now this is based on a couple of things. One, he is nearing status of a dictator. Dictators are always paranoid. But two, in 1988,
the same thing happened.
We don't need to get into like specifics. But 1988, a similar thing happened where a military coup was attempted in Maldives, and in one of their major successes, one of India's major successes, we foiled that coup. So this guy is still in the back of his head. He's going, India, the guys who stopped the military coup 20, 30 years ago. And so why would they not come in and affect me as well?
Absolutely. Interestingly, the second time when such a coup was supposed to happen, because the gentleman that this guy ousted, the last gentleman who was the president of Maldives, who was democratically elected, he is now hiding in Sri Lanka. He actually requested the Indian government, why don't you intervene with your military and help improve the situation in Maldives.
This especially happened in February of this year.
And within a month, I kid you not, 11 warships from the current Chinese government, they docked at Maldives.
So what happened in February is actually interesting. All of this, Chinese warship showed up, the government in exile asked India to intervene. But all this was kicked off by the Maldivian government themselves and Yamin pretty much arresting the head of the Supreme Court.
Chief Justice of the Supreme Court.
And a couple of politicians who said that maybe, holding so many political prisoners is illegal. Not giving visas to Indians is illegal. These are the things they were protesting, and they were put in jail for it. Because Maldives has an election coming up in September.
And his own brother as well. Yamin's own brother also went into jail by himself.
So, Yamin is paranoid. China, let's be honest. Right now in the Indian Ocean, India still has more of a navy. And America are still the big power in the Indian Ocean.
Absolutely.
So China, anything they may have sent was just symbolic. But it's important to notice that we didn't retaliate to that symbol. We didn't send in troops. We didn't tell the Maldives government to release prisoners. We just went, it's their internal business.
Absolutely.
It's fine. And a strongly worded statement, I think, was the largest we went with.
And whether you believe it or not, look at the economics of it. These are crazy numbers. And there's a report which came out on The Diplomat, which clearly states that China has something called the Pearl strategy, where they go and develop these military bases, they develop these artificial islands in the Indian Ocean. They're doing the same in South China Sea, and nobody can say anything to China over there. Everybody's, even Taiwan.
It's a fight.
Taiwan said something. China, listen, this is my land.
It's an intercontinental fight. America's involved, Japan's involved, everyone in Southeast Asia.
China is slowly trying to do that with India's neighbors. Now, considering
Indian Ocean,
Indian Ocean, the same thing they've been trying to do in Indian Ocean with Maldives. Now, same thing. Maldives has taken a lot of loans from the Chinese government. Whether they were forced to or not forced to is a different concept altogether. And China has this project that they're doing with Pakistan, where they're building roads near the Karakoram Highway. The same thing applies to China, where they're developing projects. Now, who will fund these projects? The Chinese banks. Invariably, the report says today 70% debt of the Maldives as a country, all of that belongs to the fact that these guys took loans from the Chinese government. 70% of the national debt.
Just to give you an idea of what seems like fair but isn't, China and Maldives signed a free trade agreement. Any imports from either country, there will be no imports. Which sounds like, it's all fair, everyone can sell to anyone. But, whatever Maldives is exporting to China is minimal. I don't know, the value may not be very high. Their biggest import is tourism, which is again, Chinese people going to Maldives. But the amount that China can export to Maldives is huge. They can pretty much take care of the entire island for the next 100 years until the islands go under the water.
Absolutely. And also, having said that, and since you mentioned tourism, now if you look at the current numbers, like as of yesterday, as of today morning, the number of people who are coming into Maldives as tourists, majority of them still come from India and European Union. And talking about relations, like trade relations, European Union still has the strongest trade relations with Maldives. So India is not alone in this battle. When,
Yeah.
when a coup like this is happening, when say Maldives is trying to side with China because their European Union, even the United States, they've all gone on record to say, delegates have
Yeah.
gone on record to say
They've
this, what's happening over there is
condemned
wall.
Maldives,
Yeah,
yeah.
they've condemned the policies because again,
No, that is
they're also
the,
part of one
that's the
group.
one thing India's got going for them. We're still seen as the good guys in the region.
Yeah.
China are the bad guys, Pakistan are the bad guys, India are the good guys. We've got democracy, we've got
Exactly.
freedom.
But I don't know
XYZ.
how smart that is considering. Look at, let's look at some basic things. I mean, we're talking about Maldives, and
Right.
we're talking about these island nations, or Sri
Right.
Lanka. You mentioned Bangladesh, a great
Yeah.
example. I mean, although there are rumors that the Indian government did help the Sheikh Hasina government win last time's elections, India has been, I find, a little ironical. Why? I'll tell you why. On one hand, India kept quiet for a long time in terms of what was happening in Myanmar, right? I mean, all the
Yeah.
issues that the human
India
rights
is
issues.
scared of criticizing their neighbors.
Exactly.
I mean-
So I don't understand.
No,
this then.
let's talk about. We talk about ourselves as this big country, right? Fifth biggest economy. We're a
Yeah.
superpower. We've got nuclear weapons. We've got a space program. All hallmarks of a superpower. But our foreign policy is where this all kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
You look at Russia
Yeah.
during the Cold War. Anything, anytime, even today, forget the Cold War, Ukraine in the last couple of years. Anytime a neighbor threatens to join the West, they either politically or economically influence.
Yeah.
America is the same thing. Anytime a neighbor threatens to join the Russia or China, what do? Either they convince them to join back,
Yeah.
or they install a dictatorship,
Yeah.
or they just put a 60-year blockade like they did with Cuba.
Yeah. I mean,
What does India do? We just kind of succumb.
So it might sound a little, I don't know, derogatory in terms of the kind of things.
Yeah.
I mean, these might not sound like pro-democracy ideas, but America has done it. Even Russia has done it.
It is,
China
yeah.
has done it. We're not saying that a country should do things like
Yeah,
that.
well,
but
we're not even making a stand on the opposite end
Exactly.
of saying we don't want to do this because we
Exactly.
believe in sovereignty. We're
Because
just straddling a weird
Absolutely.
middle ground.
Because I find it really surprising because slowly and gradually, I mean, and these are facts all strewn across. And look at this. I mean, if you want to look at examples, because international politics, the way it happens, is all about give and take. Let's face it. It's not human rights and all great. I understand, but it's all about give and take.
Yeah.
There have been ads in newspaper in Maldives which says this job or that job is open for any nationality except Indians.
Yeah. So
Where is it going?
And this is not just important jobs in hotels.
Yeah.
Jobs for those helicopters.
Yeah.
They're saying helicopter administrators, helicopter drivers, you guys welcome any applications
Yeah.
but not Indians.
Yeah.
Across the country. All the guys who've already got job offers
Absolutely.
not getting visas.
Absolutely.
Now let's take a step back and say, okay, Yameen is the problem here. He's the central problem. India hasn't created this problem.
Yeah.
Yameen has created the problem. Pakistan's created their problems. Sri Lanka created their own problems, which
Yeah.
they're regretting.
Yeah.
Bangladesh
Yeah.
are on the way there.
Yeah.
Bhutan and Nepal are doing
Yeah.
it because they're scared.
Yeah.
So it's not India creating these problems, but it's the Indian foreign team that aren't getting involved. It's fair to say that 50 years ago, India took an interest in their neighbors, right? Whether getting involved in the Pakistani civil war, whether getting involved in the Maldives coup in 1988.
Yeah.
Today, our big foreign policy successes are Sushma Swaraj's use of Twitter, which no doubt is a great thing. The way she gets people out of Yemen, the way she helps Indian citizens abroad, that's something that the Indian government has needed to do for a long time.
Absolutely.
But we seem to become more administrative
Yeah.
rather than forward thinking.
And also, I think, it's also the way it looks at as if we're trying to take a step back. The South Bloc is trying to take a step back and say, let me see the chain of events.
Yeah.
What happens? It depends on that. We'll take a call.
The funniest thing of all of this is they've actually, the few things that they've done in the last few years in their foreign policy. So creating that Chabahar port in Afghanistan, which
Yeah.
links India to Iran, links India to Eastern Europe. It just cuts the legs out of that whole Belt and Road initiative that China's got.
Yeah.
That was phenomenal. And
Yeah.
what did it cost us? It cost us one port that will be profitable soon.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got oil links with Iran, which maybe not for long.
Yeah.
Like
But
we
India-
talked about yesterday, we got
exactly.
oil links in Mexico.
Mexico. So India really needs to, smartly maneuver its foreign policy. When we say foreign policy, especially with relation to what's happening with their neighbors over here, because it's very critical. Because these are not alarming statistics, but imagine this situation: 4 countries surrounding India, they've all taken loans from China.
Yeah.
All Chinese state-sponsored companies are building something or the other in these 4 countries. The same thing China does in Africa also, by the way. There's a different case altogether. So they have a huge power play in all these 4 countries. They have a say now. It's not just about an infrastructure project where I take 100 rupees from you, I have to give you back 100 rupees. China's government is going to have a lot of play in all these 4 or 5 countries because their companies are involved.
Right.
These countries have to pay back so much amount of money. How they will do it, nobody knows. The same thing with the entire highway project that they are building. So where does India stand in all of this? Does India need to build more infrastructure projects? India needs to start new kind of trade relations. But India needs to do all of these small things, because that overall enhances your relations with the country, because that says a lot in terms of power play.
Right.
Because it's not just I'll send you military, I'll help you and all of that. Because it's about these other things. Look at
it's about soft power. In India, I mean, another example of how India doesn't understand the soft power works is just recently, yesterday, the Indian Olympic Association decided to not send the already qualified Indian football team to the Asian Games. Now, there's literally no upside to this.
Absolutely.
There have been a minimal economic cost, and I understand the AIFF in India is underfunded, and that's bad luck. I'm sure everyone in Indian football would have loved to send a team, but for whatever reason, we're not sending a team, and this is where you break down, right? Because you look at countries like England, a country that honestly should have no more influence on the planet. It's a small island far away to the north, doesn't really export anything but financial services. But they have all this control because one, everyone speaks English because they colonize everyone, and two, stuff like sports.
Yes.
People play football, play cricket. We know it comes from England, so there's a connection there.
Yeah.
I mean, India itself, how much soft power have we got from the IPL? We're changing international schedules because players want to come and play in the IPL.
Exactly. And it's true. I mean, people have, without taking names, it's all out in the open. Do some basic research. There are cricketers who have retired way early because they know they'll play one season of IPL or one season of T20 somewhere in Australia or somewhere in South Africa. They'll make more money than 10 years of that. I mean, I understand playing for your country.
No, but it's also become an important world event, right? So the same way everyone wants to go for the World Cup. People want to come to India for the IPL. So these small things matter. And the Indian government to an extent gets it, but for whatever reason, we don't push forward. We don't try and push the limits. We still have that same old colonial mentality of, we'll just do our best and hope for the best.
It doesn't happen. You cannot sit back because your neighbors are going to get more powerful. They'll have new friends and you don't want to be left alone. I mean, you might say you have a European friend or the North American friends will come with all the military power and all that.
But at the end of the day, America owes so much money to China. Russia owes so much money to China.
Absolutely.
Our biggest allies owe China.
Look at the bonds. Look at the bonds in the United States market, which comes from the Chinese government. It's incredible. And also, there's another very interesting point here. Before we end the show, in terms of India's relations with these 4 or 5 countries, and in terms of neighbors, look at what China is not only giving them apart from your infrastructure or building bridges, or telling them I'll build this, and they're good in building all these things. Look at what they're doing with northeast Pakistan, the kind of things that are happening over there. But also arms and ammunitions, weaponry,
and that's something India can't compete on. We have
they
one
have
of the
been doing
biggest,
it with Sri Lanka. India can't do that.
We have one of the biggest defense budgets on the planet. But most of it is allocated for imports.
Because
not for R&D.
we're hungry for oil, we're hungry for weapons because we're not. There is no indigenous manufacturing happening in this country.
We don't have research and development weapons. Very minimal, at least.
And China has got a one up on that. These are all bare facts.
So this is the thing. I mean, all these countries, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, now Maldives, are all part of that Belt and Road initiative that India is trying to fight. This is the one stand that India has made in the last few years, saying we will not get involved in this, and we want to counter it in any way possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is all kind of linked. You can't say, I'll separate this foreign policy from that foreign policy.
All of these are linked. All of these little things are linked. I mean, if you can do the same thing in terms of projects in Afghanistan, why not do those 1, 2, 3, 4 projects in all these 4 or 5 countries and have your power play? This is the easiest example of having software. You don't have to get your military. You don't have to say publicly announce in world conferences. No, we'll help this country. Go there, build businesses, help businesses talk to each other. Because international relations are all about business. Believe it or not, it is like that.
It is. I mean, business is a big driver of democracy and any other form of government.
Look at the other day we were talking about Mexico. But that's it for from us on this show where we talk. We're really surprised in terms of our relations with our neighbors.
Small little country called Maldives.
Absolutely.
So tomorrow we'll continue this international series of the week, and you can catch us same time, same place.